There are a number of steps you must take in preparing a hazmat load for shipment. Be sure to always set your parking brake and shock your wheels before loading or unloading to prevent the vehicle from moving. Packages of hazardous materials must be secured to prevent shifting, including relative motion between packages during transport.
First thing we would look at if it's on a skid, is it wrapped properly to the skid? If it's drums, are the drums wrapped and or banded? Are they wrapped or banded to the skid? When you're going down the road, all the freight moves and it bounces around.
Whenever a cargo tank is loaded or unloaded, the regulations require that a qualified person be present or in attendance. The qualified person has to be someone who is knowledgeable about the material being loaded or unloaded, knows what to do in an emergency situation, and is authorized and has the means to move the cargo tank if necessary. As a driver, you must know which non-bulk hazardous materials can be shipped together. Some classes and divisions of hazmat cannot be loaded together. Some hazmat can be loaded together, but only if the hazmat is segregated. This is where the hazardous materials load and segregation requirements come into play. The hazmat segregation table enables you to determine which materials can be loaded, shipped, and stored together. It's easy to read and use. An X indicates that materials cannot be loaded and stored together. An O indicates that they cannot be loaded together unless they're separated to prevent the materials from mixing in the event of an accident or incident. And if the space is blank, it means that no restrictions apply. For Class 1 explosives, you may see a star or an asterisk. This indicates that segregation among some of the different Class 1 explosives is governed by a separate compatibility table used only for Class 1 explosives. An integral part of transporting hazardous materials is getting the shipment safely to its destination.
You have a lot more responsibility with a hazmat load because of the nature of the freight. So you need to ensure that it's loaded and secured properly, and that you placard it properly, and that it is labeled properly so that you're able to communicate the threat in the event of an accident or an incident.
As far as safety goes, we all know that vehicle inspections are an everyday necessity. In addition to inspecting your tires during your pre-trip, inspect them each time you park your vehicle. And don't forget your post-trip inspection either. When checking your tires, it's a good idea to also take time to make sure all your placards are in place and in good condition. If any are damaged or missing, replace them. While fueling, the engine must be shut off, and you or someone else must be in control of the fueling process. When you're out on the road, do not park on or within 5 feet of a road unless you must stop for a brief period and other parking isn't available. If you're transporting a 1.1, 1.2, or 1.3 explosive, you must not park on or within 5 feet of a road. Do not park within 300 feet of an open fire, a bridge, tunnel, or a dwelling, or any place where people gather. And do not drive near an open fire unless you can safely pass without stopping. Do not smoke in or within 25 feet of your vehicle if you're transporting explosives, oxidizers, flammable materials, or an empty tank vehicle that contains flammables. Unless there are no practical alternatives, follow marked hazmat routes, which are located away from heavily populated areas, tunnels, narrow streets, and alleys. It's crucial that you know the specific requirements for the materials you transport. If you're uncertain what these requirements are, talk with your supervisor before heading out. There's no excuse for not knowing hazmat requirements and your motor carrier's policies. When you're hauling hazardous materials, it's extremely important that you know what to do if you have an accident or incident. A hazmat incident is defined as any unintentional release of a hazardous material from its package.
First thing you want to do is secure the scene. If you have a spill, you want to secure the spill, contact law enforcement, and move people away from the vehicle.
If this occurs, it's your job to know your motor carrier's policy on incidents, to follow it, and within that policy, to be as helpful as possible. This includes helping keep people away from the scene and immediately notifying your motor carrier. Accident and incident reports need to be made promptly, and it's your job to contact your motor carrier in either situation.